I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Welcome to the Friday edition. I'm going to do something different this episode. Because of the holidays, 90% of you are not listening to any of my podcast episodes in the last month. So those remaining episodes are going to be shorter episodes for the rest of this year. Also, the TikTok live broadcasts that I was doing are stopped. I'm going to have a major announcement at the end of the year about my podcast. Also, to all the Wolfpack listeners, I still have my holiday fundraiser for my podcast to help offset some of the costs associated with doing this podcast for 2 years. Now, my initial goal is to raise $1,500 before the holidays at the end of the year. To those of you that did contribute, thank you. Those few dollars are a start. Any small amount from my listeners truly helps. Okay, let's get into all the craziness from Donald and his supporters. Here we go. I'm absolutely sick about this. The Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center. A national memorial created after a president was assassinated. Now, the space meant to honor art culture and the idea that this country is bigger than any one ego. And now they're slapping Donald Trump's name on it like it's a failed casino he just wandered into and claimed with a Sharpie. This isn't honoring history. It's a hostile rebrand slapped onto a national memorial. Let's be clear about what this is. This isn't preservation. This isn't philanthropy. This is pure ego management dressed up as public service. This is Donald Trump, a man who can't stand the idea of walking past something important without seeing his own name staring back at him. It's branding addiction. It's narcissism with scaffolding. And the fact that the legality of this move is even in question should tell you everything. Congress designated this as a memorial to John F. Kennedy after he was murdered. Not a vanity mirror for a guy who thinks applause is a form of nutrition. And the explanation? Oh my Lord, the explanation. We're saving the building. We saved the building. The building was weak. The building was sad. The building was probably mean to Trump first. This is the same script every time. Trump states, I alone can fix it. I alone rescued it. Without me, Donald, the walls would crumble and the ghost of culture would cry. It's the language of a man who thinks institutions only exist if he's standing on them taking credit. Now, what makes this worse is how it was done. Donald gutted the Kennedy board, pushed people out, installed his loyalists, then Trump magically elects himself chair like this is some third-rate HOA meeting in Florida. That's not stewardship. That's a hostile takeover of a cultural landmark. And the message is loud and clear. If it exists, if it matters, if it has meaning, I, Donald Trump, want my name on it, or I'll tear it apart until it does have my name. Even the Kennedy family is saying this is beyond comprehension. And they're right. Because it is. This isn't political disagreement. This is cultural vandalism. It's taking a memorial built out of tragedy and turning it into a trophy case for Donald Trump's insecurity. You don't honor JFK by stapling Trump to his legacy. You erase the point of the memorial entirely. And don't miss the pattern. This is the second federal building this month. This is about rewriting public space into private branding. It's about training people to accept that power means ownership, that public means Donald Trump's. That history is flexible if you're loud enough. This is what authoritarian ego looks like when it wears a suit and smiles for cameras. This isn't strength, it's desperation. It's Trump terrified of being forgotten, trying to carve his name into stone while he still can. And the fact that his supporters cheer this should make us all wonder about their mental state of mind. Because if they're okay with this, if this becomes normal, then nothing public stays public for long. This isn't America evolving or adapting or fixing anything. This is what it looks like when Trump loyalists lets one man autograph its institutions. Now, this one should scare the hell out of everyone, because buried inside all the uniforms and legal jargon is a message that sounds calm, reasonable, and professional, but is actually radioactive. The top lawyer for the Joint Chiefs is telling the top general that if a military officer believes they've been given an unlawful order, they should quietly request retirement. Not refuse the order, not challenge the order, not expose it, just step aside and disappear. Think about how insane that is. The guidance isn't fight it. The guidance isn't report it. The guidance is exit the building and let someone else pull the trigger. That's not legal clarity. That's institutional cowardice wrapped in polite language. And it turns the concept of military honor completely upside down. This came up because Democratic lawmakers urged troops to disobey illegal orders if they receive them. And instead of the system saying, good, that's how the law works, the response was panic. Lawyers scrambling, officials furious, everyone clutching pearls like the real danger is someone saying no to an unlawful command instead of the unlawful command itself. And here's what the law actually says. A commissioned officer has every right to say, this is wrong, should not be expected to quietly and silently walk away just because they're offered a free pass to do so. That's not activism. That's duty. That's accountability. Here's the core problem. If the advice to officers is retire quietly, you're guaranteeing silence. You're guaranteeing that bad orders don't get challenged. They just get passed down the line until someone younger, poorer, or less protected carries them out. That's not restraint. That's laundering responsibility. And this isn't theoretical. Since Donald Trump took office in January, more than a dozen senior officers have either been fired or pushed into early retirement. That is an unusually high level of turnover, and it sends a very clear message to anyone still wearing the uniform. And let's not ignore the context. This is happening while there's intense scrutiny over military operations that may have crossed legal lines, including the September 2nd double-tap strike on a suspected drug smuggling boat operating in the Caribbean Sea near Venezuelan waters. U.S. forces allegedly fired again on the same vessel after the initial strike, killing surviving occupants. That's not hypothetical ethics class stuff. That's real blood, real consequences, and real accountability being sidestepped. They'll tell you this is about avoiding politicization of the military, that resigning or protesting looks political. Bullshit. Refusing an illegal order isn't political. It's literally required. Even the Secretary of Defense has blurred this line. In a speech to hundreds of general and flag officers, Pete Hegseth told them to do the honorable thing and resign if they didn't agree with his vision for the department. But disagreeing with leadership is not the same thing as being ordered to do something illegal. Conflating those two is dangerous. The Uniform Code of Military Justice doesn't say obey unless it's awkward. It says unlawful orders are not orders. Period. What's being encouraged here is a culture where the safest move is silence, where senior officers vanish instead of speak, where the public never hears dissent, never sees friction, never knows how close the system came to crossing a line. That's not stability. That's rot. And when the Secretary of Defense tells officers to resign if they don't agree with his vision, that's not leadership either. That's loyalty testing. As former Army JAG lawyer Dan Muir put it, the guidance being described fundamentally misunderstands what service members are supposed to do when faced with an unlawful order. If the order is illegal, you disobey it. You attempt to stop or modify it, and you report it up the chain of command. That is the system working as designed. Even former military lawyers are saying this guidance gets it wrong. If an order is unlawful, you disobey it, you report it, you push back up the chain. That's how accountability works. That's how you prevent war crimes. That's how you protect the country and the people wearing the uniform. Because once the standard becomes retire quietly and don't make waves, the message is clear. The system would rather lose its conscience than confront its power. And that should make every American deeply uncomfortable. Now, I normally do news from the edge of sanity here on a Friday, but the edge of sanity kicked the door down and started screaming. Because Donald Trump gave an 18-minute televised address to the nation that felt less like a speech and more like a neurological stress test. And Wolfpack listeners, he did not pass. This wasn't a formal State of the Union address. This was a stream of consciousness audition tape from Trump, who thinks volume equals facts and repetition equals truth. Donald bragged about the economy while describing an economy that does not exist. Trump claimed inflation is gone, while people are still choosing between groceries and rent. Apparently, in Trump's America, numbers just behave better out of respect for him. Trump stood there with his speech and said the border is both completely overrun and completely fixed, depending on which sentence you caught. Millions pouring in, total control restored, crisis apocalypse, perfect management. Pick a lane, Donald, or at least finish the damn sentence before contradicting yourself like a confused GPS yelling, recalculating. Then came foreign policy, which sounded like it was explained to Trump in an elevator that never reached the right floor. Trump talked tough about enemies he couldn't properly identify. He bragged about strength while describing chaos. At one point, Trump flat out claimed during his speech he had ended 8 wars, without explaining which wars, where they were, or how exactly he ended them. At one point, it felt like Trump was threatening world leaders who were not even involved, just in case someone needed a reminder that coherence is optional now. And the economy. Oh my Lord, the economy. Trump took credit for job growth that happened when he wasn't in office. Donald blamed current problems on everyone except himself, including people who haven't held power in years. According to Trump's logic, he deserves credit for the good things and retroactive innocence for the bad things. That's not leadership, Donald. That's astrology. Trump wandered into energy policy and immediately got lost. Windmills killing birds again. Energy independence achieved by yelling louder. Facts were treated like rude interruptions. At no point did Trump seem aware that people listening actually live in the real world where utility bills exist. And what made this worse was the delivery of his 18-minute speech. Slurred phrasing, repeated phrases, sentences restarting mid-sentence like Trump's brain hit a buffering wheel. Donald circled the same points over and over, not for emphasis, but because he genuinely seemed stuck. It was less persuasive speech and more cognitive treadmill. And the people in the room told the story. Applause on cue. Silence when logic was required. Laughter at moments that were not jokes. This wasn't a rally of ideas. It was a loyalty recital. Clap now, think later, or don't think at all. Here's the dangerous part, listeners. This wasn't just absurd. It was normalized absurdity. Donald Trump, clearly struggling to organize thoughts, was presenting himself as the steady hand. Falsehoods were delivered confidently enough that they dared you to challenge them. And millions will hear it and say, he sounded strong. Strength has been redefined as refusing correction. This is not about politics anymore. This is about Donald's brain health, accountability, and the terrifying reality that we are pretending incoherence is leadership because acknowledging it would require coverage. 18 minutes from Donald, no plan, no clarity, no connection to reality. And we're supposed to treat that as a major address to the nation. That wasn't a message to the country. That was Donald Trump talking in circles and calling it direction. Donald Trump, the delusional one, is getting worse by the minute. And that puts everyone in this country in danger. In lieu of news from the edge of sanity, I had to talk about this insane speech from Donald Trump. I can't say that this put a smile on your face, but it does let all of us know that Donald Trump has lost it big time. And we're watching day by day the destruction and melting down of the President of the United States. A quick added note, right before I went to record this, the Epstein files were released. And just as we thought, heavily redacted and Post-it notes blocking everything and continuing bullshit and a cover-up from the Republicans. The most corrupt administration in the history of our country. That's another episode of A World Gone Mad. Just a friendly reminder to all of you, I'm still looking for more support in the way of a small donation for the podcast. Don't let that word donation scare you. A few dollars here, a few dollars there helps me tremendously. I'm hoping that some of you out there will understand and will please contribute. For 2 years, I've never asked anyone to pay for my podcast. And I'm not doing that now. I'm just asking for a little friendly help around the holidays to allow me to get through the rest of the year. Thank you in advance. This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Monday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.